All right, I'd like to welcome everyone out to the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, June 18th, 2020. And we will start off with item 2.1, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, and it'll be offered by Brandon Watson. And if you want to just come up here. Now, I will let everyone know, since we do have public hearing and we have applicants that will be coming up to the podium, we have asked that, and we have some wipes up here, that you wipe it down in between. So if you want to take a step back, you don't even have to completely do it for this part if you don't want to wipe it down. So.
The audience, please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Audience may be seated.
And I promise I'm not trying to be bossy or anything, but we've been asked to do that. So if you do come up to the mic and you're up there, please wipe it down afterwards. So we do have a full Planning Commission quorum, and everyone is present here. I will ask the Planning Commission if there are any conflicts of interest with any of the items on the agenda tonight. Seeing none, we'll then move on to item 2.4, which is asking for a motion for approval of minutes for the May 7th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the May 7th Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second it.
A motion by Andrew and a second by Adam, and we'll call for a vote. Andrew? Or all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, guys. Then we'll move on to item 3.1, and this is on for a public hearing. So I will read at this time just the procedure or how we do that. Public hearings for this meeting will be conducted both in person and electronically. Is that correct, Wendy? Okay, we still have it on there. Any person interested in addressing the commission may submit a comment by emailing recorder@herriman.org or by visiting herriman.org agendas and minutes, where there will be a link to join the electronic meeting. To submit a written comment, your statement will be read in the public record. All comments must include the respondent's name and the file number that is subject of the comment. And then it looks like, where is it located?
Right at the end.
Yeah. Okay, so public comment here will be as following. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form, which is in the back corner, and present it to Wendy, the deputy recorder. In general, the chair will allow an individual 2 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. This policy also applies to all public hearings. It isn't a question answer. I know sometimes you come up as you make comments and you want to have everything answered. We'll listen to all the comments, and then as a planning commission, typically we will answer those afterwards, or even ask the applicant to, but at that time we're just hearing your comments. And then at this time, we'll move on to item 3.1, and we'll look at city staff. That's a preliminary plot approval for a one-lot subdivision.
Okay, thank you. It is not unusual for any city to have plots of land or lots of land that are not part of a previously recorded subdivision. And so Herriman has a number of those properties in our city. However, in our current city code, we do have a regulation that says before you can build on an unplatted parcel, that you do need to go through the subdivision process. And so even though this lot currently exists, has not been previously platted, and so the applicant, the property owner, is going through that process now and is seeking approval to record a one-lot subdivision of the existing property. As it's noted in the staff report, this is an A-0.25 zone. Typically, that's a quarter-acre lot zone. Minimum lot size in this zone is 10,000 square feet. The address is 7051 Gina Road. John, I apologize. I'm not seeing that PowerPoint on this presentation. Yeah, it's not. It's just blue. I was stalling, if you didn't know that. Waiting for that to come up. I I'm not aware that staff has received any public comments on this particular application. However, if there are any that's been received, our city recorder will read those into the record as part of the public hearing process. Again, this is a vacant piece of ground, and the intent, of course, is to build a home on the property. So I don't know if I necessarily need to bring up the PowerPoint for this one. The applicants, just for the commissioners, I believe each applicant is here tonight to speak on their own agenda item if you have questions.
Okay. Michael, I will ask the applicant just at this time, if you're able to get that PowerPoint up, that's great, but I'll ask the applicant to come up if there's any additional remarks or insight to this.
Hello, my name is Adam Orm. So I'll be the homeowner that's developing the piece of property. So there's really nothing more other than just going through this process. I'm a commercial architect, so I know the process of going through all this stuff. So it's just getting in line and doing my part. So that's about it.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions real quick for the applicant? All right. Seeing none, I'll let you wipe it down.
All right, sounds good.
And then we will open the public hearing as soon as he's done wiping it down. And then if there's any comments from anyone here for the public hearing. And Wendy, did you receive any electronic for this item? Okay. Would you like to share that at this time?
Okay, so this comment was received from Roger Dalton regarding file number S2020-029. And he stated, regarding the subdivision proposal number S2020-029 to divide the 1 acre lot into quarter-acre lots, I vehemently oppose such a change. Doing so would lower the property value of my home and neighbors, quadruple the amount of construction that will need to take place, increase the traffic to our neighborhoods, inhibit views, increase the potential for more noise, and allow for less privacy. In my neighborhood and the neighborhood behind me, all of the lots are anywhere from 1/3 to 1 acre. Breaking this plot down to 0.25 lots is inconsistent with the country feel, which is one of the reasons many of us moved to Herriman in the first place. Is there anything that us homeowners can say or do to change the course of this proposal, or is it already set in stone? Please consider reducing the amount of house/lots to either 1 or 2. I realize that could slightly reduce the taxes generated for Herriman City, but it would truly make a huge difference in the quality of this area, and in the long run would be a much better choice.
Hey, Wendy, do you know if that's for item 3.2?
Yeah, he said the number.
3.1.
3.1 is what we're on. That's why I
Yeah.
was asking.
No, but
Yeah.
it said 3.1. She said.
Okay, so that was 3.1.
That was
Okay.
in reference to that.
I just don't think they understand
Yeah,
that it was
I
being
think
only
they were a little
subdivided
con-
into 1 lot.
I think there was a misunderstanding. That's why I was asking.
It's possible they put down the wrong file number.
Okay. And that's fine. All right. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we will close. Oh, there's one here.
I'm Zach Gordon. I actually live like kitty corner from the lot. I think it's great. They want to build one house on it. But my question is, what is Herriman's idea? So I see that they're dedicating the front 30 feet for public right-of-way. What can we do as like a community and a city to get together to work on moving forward and developing out the road? It's like the wild, wild west on that road. I mean, today I was riding bikes with my family and a car's driving slow because of the bumps, and then a big old diesel truck overtakes the other car. I mean, you got one car going 15 and the other one going 35 around it. It's huge public hazard, that road. So I think bringing this up, I mean, you guys are getting a little bit more of the road. Now it looks like you have it all the way up, maybe past the barns, to where I know that I personally have given the city about $37,000 in fees and bonds for me to build my house on that road. I know Middlestead gave some, and then I don't know if this guy's gonna pay some as well. But the city does have some funds allocated to be able to take care of part of the road, and I think it would be something that we should look at.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
If there is no other public comment at this time on this item, I will close the public hearing. And I will turn to the Planning Commission. And at least one question I have for city staff, and maybe they can help me with, because I can see on this map that you see there's several lots that still go out into the middle of the road, but maybe we can get an update if there is anything on the status of where we are at with potentially developing this road, if there is any update. Is engineering here? There we go.
So I could speak to that a little bit. We are getting a little more and more money from the other lots as they develop. We still have 2 landowners that will not dedicate any land further to the west.
Well, I also see 7014 looks like it juts out in the middle of the area as well. What?
The county hasn't accepted the one that Herriman. So he's willing to give it, just the
Okay.
fact that
I appreciate your comments. Let me ask the engineer, because I want to make sure that the city's aware of what needs to be done here as well.
That is correct. We have gotten a deed from that property owner. The county bounced it, but in theory, we have possession of it. So we're
Okay,
still-
so there's 2 west of here that you're saying are still questionable?
That's correct.
Okay. So maybe you can work with,
Have you levied to council the possibility of condemnation if necessary?
That's a question I could run past Blake and come back to the or to the planning commission. I don't know if they've discussed taking that route.
I mean, it's getting to the point, I mean, I know how long this street is, and I can understand this gentleman's concern. This has been approved since 2004, that it's been like this. And before, it used to be everybody's lots were owned just like this piece out to Gina Road. And now you're seeing before it was just, the city actually came in and said it was a corridor due to historic rights. And that's how this road even started. And then all of these landowners have developed over time. So I do think it's something you and Blake need to talk about it with the council, because it's starting to become a hazard.
I agree with that. And I know it's been something Blake's been talking to the council, I think, since he started here, to be honest. And it's been a priority for him, and they just can't, between the property acquisition and the funding. But I think, maybe
There's always other ways to take
maybe it's time to start talking.
access if it's a public hazard. That's that body that can improve that, not us. So.
yeah.
Is there a minimum, because part of it's a private road, correct? And so I don't know if there's a way to require that they maintain it to a standard.
It is a public road,
The city owns it to a certain point.
except for a couple, pieces that we
the
don't
30
have the
pieces.
right of way for, I believe a couple of those landowners actually close off what is their land periodically to prevent the prescriptive easement from occurring through there.
Yeah, I do. I just think something, and maybe staff can work on that.
I would love to get it done, so.
I know the next time we have a joint work meeting, which who knows when that will be, I will be bringing it up.
All right, thank you. And just continue to work and give updates to the gentleman in this area on progress, and maybe let him know the process that still has to occur in order for this to occur.
Could you also in the future give us a map showing where roads like this have this same scenario? Because I know we had this with 7300 West.
Yeah, this would be a great item for a group meeting.
Beneficial, so we could help you.
There are a couple other spots,
Yeah.
Houston, yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind getting us that in the next few meetings.
Yeah, next work meeting, I'll have something.
Yeah, this would be good for a group meeting of us saying these need to be resolved, they're becoming issues. And so at least they're hearing it from more than just you guys.
Sounds like a good plan.
Thank you so much.
Did you close the public hearing?
The public hearing is closed.
Okay.
Yeah. At this time, I'm going to turn, just because I know might be a lot of different scenarios or different issues with this area, but I think we'll look at making a motion on this item.
Yeah. I'm ready to make a motion. I move that we approve item 3.1 with staff's 7 recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Adam and a second by Jackson, and we'll call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Lauren? Yes. Adam?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Andrea? And please, guys, if you need to talk with, please talk with the engineer or other city staff, and they'll be able to work with you on other issues that may be in this area as well. Now, item 3.2, we did have a little bit of an issue with this because 3.2 is talking about a preliminary plot approval for a 5-lot subdivision. But in item 4.1, we need to go through a rezone first. And so we will, I mean, I look at it as we'll have to keep the public hearing open, and then we'll also continue this item. But if anyone, city staff or anything, feels like we need to go through it because it is on the agenda, please let me know.
But we also are going to leave the public hearing open.
Yes.
So there'll be
Yeah,
another time for
I
you to
think
speak
we need to.
it.
Because until a rezone occurs, we really can't do anything with item 3.2 at all. And so,
So do you wish to have the hearing on 3.2 now, or do you want to wait until you have it with the?
I think we need to leave the public hearing open.
Start it.
We'll have the discussion on
Until
subdivision
council
now.
makes their final decision.
Yeah, until council makes their final decision.
So does that mean we'll start it and then?
Yep.
Okay.
We noticed it, so we kind of have to start it, right?
Yeah, so we'll turn time over to city staff and just go through the process, but we will continue this item.
Thank you. As already been mentioned, this is a proposed 5-lot subdivision. The current zoning is A1, but as is mentioned on this agenda tonight is a legislative request to rezone the property to an A-.5, which would allow for half-acre lots. That legislative matter would require city council decision. This body's role, of course, is to make a recommendation or an advisory recommendation to the city council. Any subdivision action would, at this stage, be contingent or conditioned upon the city council's decision on the rezone. But oftentimes when we are looking at a rezone, we'd like to see what we're rezoning for. And so the applicant has prepared this subdivision for public information as well as for the commission's information tonight.
All right, thank you, Michael. If the applicant's here and they'd like to share some additional information, just come up to the podium and state your name, please.
I'm Travis Cunningham, future homeowner on this property and also part of Western Flats. And so with this parcel, it's a 5-acre parcel. The current zoning is A1. We're looking for a subdivision that will hold 5 homes. There's a current home existing on the property, and the new subdivision will take into account that structure of that home and will be built around it. We had a neighborhood meeting on May 4th, and at that time we were looking for quarter-acre zoning, and a lot of the people that lived in that neighborhood had issues with the zoning because of the regulation of it being a horse property. You need to have a minimum of a half-acre. And so we've tried to rework the plat a little bit, and so now we have 5 lots that all meet the minimum of the half-acre. It's very similar to the neighborhood across the street of Ken Cove that has half-acre lots also. And so this is kind of an adjustment we've made since the neighborhood meeting to help them feel more comfortable with the project. We're not looking for an increased number of homes than what it's currently zoned for with the A1. Because it is a 5-acre property, we could put 5 homes on there. But the issue is being able to put the Oakley Court, the cul-de-sac in the subdivision and still be able to fit homes in that piece of land around the existing home. And then with 139, we're willing to work with the city on what you guys want to do for improvements, if it's something you feel like you need to improve currently, or if it's something you'd prefer to have a fee in lieu of. I know at the neighborhood meeting, a lot of the people didn't want that street improved currently because of the horses that go up and down the street. And we're willing to work with you guys on whatever you feel like you need to do for that.
All right, thank you so much. Is there any questions now for him, or? Okay, thank you. And we will open the public hearing still tonight. And so if there's any public comments, feel welcome to come up to the podium. We will do public comments on this because it still is on for public hearing for the subdivision. It's just, this is going to be continued until there's a decision made by the city council in item 4.1.
So just so it's kind of clear, you'll have an opportunity to comment on the subdivision today. Then later today, you'll have an opportunity to comment on the zoning piece. And then that has to go back to the county no matter what, the council.
City
no matter
council.
what, so you'll have an opportunity to talk then about the zoning, and then once that's decided, you'll have another opportunity to talk about it on the subdivision when it comes back. That's why we're continuing the subdivision
Which may or
now.
may not come back depending on what the city council does.
Correct.
Are there any,
Sorry, I know
are there
that's
any-
confusing, so I-
Any through email, Wendy, that we received for this item? Okay.
Received one. I received another that didn't indicate which item it was referring to, and I think it's regarding this one, so.
Okay.
The first one that designated item S2020-016 is from Tara Baum and Robert Baum. And it says, this comment is concerning the development that is proposed for our neighborhood at location 6221 West, 13900 South. It looks like they're indicating that they're referencing both item 3.2 and item 4.1 in this one comment. We strongly disagree with rezoning the 5-acre lot. We think the zoning rule should stay exactly the way it currently is. Us, along with the majority of the residents on the street, purchased our properties for the one reason of having horse property and minimal 1 acre between all of our homes. That is why we purchased at this location, and we want it to stay that way. Our reasons being traffic increase, water pressure decrease, the appearance and feeling of being socked in with homes instead of having open space, which is the whole reason why we purchased our homes in this particular area. I feel that it is wrong that you only contacted people within 300 feet of this proposal because it affects so many more families in the surrounding area, and I think that more residents should be given the chance to share their opinion and concerns. Thank you, Tara and Robert Baum.
Yeah, I think she has one more, though.
And here is another one by Kathleen Lee. Her home sits on the 3 acres that run directly along the western perimeter of the development. In '95, she purchased and subdivided 5 acres into 2 1-acre horse lots and 1 2.5-acre lot. The intent and goal were not for financial gain, but to be part of the dream of an equestrian community, as stated by the Herriman Planning Committee. My concerns with the proposed development next door to our property are the following. There are 2 families that live directly along the property line of the proposed development. Together, we own 5 horses, 2 barns, and 3 riding arenas. Our horse-related activities and those of multiple other families on our street create dust, flies, horse smells, and sounds, as well as horse trailer transportation type traffic in and out of properties. These smells, sounds, and sights are generally embraced by the residents along 13900 South because most of us belong to an equestrian culture that comes with living with horses. Residents of all ages on 139 South and neighboring roads feel safe to ride horses on our road due to the quiet and safe nature of our street. Horses can be reactive and unpredictable. Drivers who are unaware of a horse's nature can put horses and riders into potentially dangerous situations. Currently, the cars that travel on our road are driven mostly by careful, aware, and respectful people who are aware of this danger. Non-horse people have a tendency to drive too fast and too close to equines, which can result in catastrophic results and even death. I fear for our horse and rider safety when considering the addition of more residents, resulting in more traffic with drivers who may not understand the nature of the horse. I strongly object to anything that may bring harm to the growing long-term conditions of our horse community. I am concerned that a development with higher density lots will bring ill will and complaints about the smell of the horses, their noises, their manure, and the flies that come with horses. Ill will that could particularly affect the Thompsons and the Lees who live next door. My second concern relates to the lack of properly pre-planned infrastructure, which is already creating problems with the residents who currently live on our street. More homes will further stress the infrastructure in multiple ways. Our road is very narrow, creating a safety issue for traffic. Garbage trucks have to back up versus driving forward in order to pick up the garbage. Our water pressure is extremely low for the current population. Adding multiple homes will only add to the already stressed water system that cannot keep up with the current demands. This is documented by the Herriman Water Service by frequent service calls and complaints. The internet service is inadequate. Some of us can only get service from CenturyLink, who can only offer levels of megabytes that are insufficient to properly and consistently run some security systems. Other providers state their hubs are full and they have no plans to add additional service to our street. Additional homes will further stress the effectiveness of the internet. I strongly oppose any subdivision of property along our property's eastern perimeter that breaks with the tradition of less than 1 acre. I strongly oppose a subdivision of the same property that does not honor the special continuity of equestrian culture that exists here in our small community, or that does not take into consideration the already stressed infrastructure along our road. I would prefer to see a subdivision next to our property that mirrors the Lee subdivision or Rodeo Acres, which are both 1 acre parcels. I realize this would not be as equitable for any developer, but it would certainly enhance the unique long-term quality of life in our neighborhood and most probably enhance the property values as well. And that is the end of that one from Kathleen Lee. And as I said, she didn't indicate which item it was referring, but I think
it's relevant to both, so
Okay.
I think that's fine. All right. And we will pay attention if it's relevant to 4.1 as well, but that is on for public hearing as well.
I think I'm on the 3.2. So my name is Jessica Farnsworth. My home burned down last year, but my home is located just east of this proposed neighborhood. So we have the private lane, so we would have 2 new houses that border along our lane. And honestly, my husband couldn't make it tonight, but we don't have a problem with this. I feel like in the meeting that we had with them last month, they addressed our main concern was half acre lots, and they've done that. And so with the half acre lots going in, we honestly don't have a problem with that. I think one of the main concerns is, not even main concern, but putting in the sidewalks there, where we don't have sidewalks all the way up the street. We only have them on the Ken Cove side, and we have them at the very bottom of the lane when you first pull onto 139th. So it doesn't really, for me, it doesn't really seem to make sense to add more subdivision or more sidewalks right along that. You're only going to have 2. I mean, and we have 7 kids. My kids are riding up their bikes up and down the street all the time, and I'm not worried about the sidewalks because it's a dead-end street. Our only big concern was there's an open access area of land at the bottom, the back of the subdivision that is not included in the subdivision. We're just concerned about what's gonna happen with that, if it stays in, like one of the homeowners, if Travis keeps that in his name, that's our concern. If it's going to be only approved if it's turned over to the city, we kind of have some issues with that, but the actual subdivision itself, we don't see any problems with approving both items, approving the subdivision and the half-acre lots. So, do I need to wipe it down?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Supposed to turn in a comment card to,
Yes, please. And it'll be for Wendy over here.
We also have a basket over by the door for them.
Okay.
Thank you.
all right. Nathan Hardman is my name. I live just to the north on the corner lot there on Ken Cove on 139th. And I think I agree with the Farnsworth. Fundamentally, I don't really have an issue with the subdivision and putting in the houses. I think the big thing is the safety of 139th. Seems like that's a common theme. It's very similar to the first one with, looked like there's some private property that was into the road and figuring that out. And, you know, there's sidewalks that only go for 100 feet and then none. And then there's more sidewalk. You know, there's not a cul-de-sac at the end of the street. There's a weird traffic pattern where 139th meets, was that 6400 West? And so just curious what the city's plan is for that traffic pattern, you know, where you can't have cars that turn around, emergency vehicles can't get through there. They're saying the garbage trucks have to back up because they can't turn around, plow, you know, snow plows can't turn around. So it seems like there needs to be some improvements made to 139th, to, you know, street lights, curb and gutter, sidewalks, some way to safely, you know, you have vehicle traffic using the same space as, you know, equestrian riders, pedestrians, bicycles. They're all using the same space. And so I think every resident has a story of a near accident or near, you know, collision with trying to share the same space as vehicle traffic. So I'd like to see the city have some kind of plan to resolve that and make it safe for vehicle traffic and non-vehicle traffic to be on the same, traveling on the same lane. The other thing I'd like to see the city do, if they can work with the developer, is put in a right-of-way that will connect that neighborhood to the park, being able to have a pathway that you can walk. Maybe a bridge that goes over the river, kind of like they've done up towards the pond. But having that easeway where you can walk through and connect to all the amenities in the park would resolve, and the kids getting to and from the junior high would have that ability to walk through there and not have to walk on the road. But if the city can work with the developer to get that right of way, it's going to resolve a lot of concerns, safety concerns along 139 with the increased traffic.
Thank you so much. We'll let you come back on 4.1 if you want to.
Okay, I think we're just gonna kind of cover
I know.
everything at once here, it appears.
Sure,
So,
that's fine.
Both places. My name's Craig Atkinson. I live 13872 Walker Vista, so it'd be just northwest on the corner there from their property. I'm completely opposed to doing anything there. The traffic issue is one. A general, I mean, we live on a dead-end street. Each house generates approximately 10 trips per day. That's 50 more trips up and down our little tiny road. That we got kids on, we got a blind hill at the bottom already. We enjoy riding horses up and down this road. We utilize the rodeo grounds over there. These things, we argued all these things. I've lived there since it was a dirt road, okay? We used to come in where the gate is. We argued these things back to like 2006 when they wanted to build Ken Cove across the street. Even at that time, there was a preponderance of the neighbors that did not want the half-acre lots at all. Somehow they got approved, but at the same time, I believe they decided then that they had consumed all the possible building on that street that the street could sustain. It also caused a lot of other people to rush out and decide to do like a mass exodus off the street and try to subdivide their properties. From Lee's, who spoke earlier, Coates, Garcia's at the end of the street, Culverwell's all tried to subdivide their properties immediately after Ken Cove was approved, but they were all denied. They were all told no, that the street had too many people on it already. Nothing has changed. The street hasn't changed. None of these facts have changed. You can go back and look at your own minutes, 2007, 2006. I agree with everything else that's been said here that we don't really want the street improved. I liked it when it was a dirt road. It's one of the last places left near the rodeo grounds where you can still ride your horse over there. 2 of these lots they propose are steep hillsides that face the ballpark. Nobody's ever gonna put horses there. They're just creating more traffic. During the phone thing that we had on the internet, I don't know what you called it, we asked a lot of questions, didn't always get our answers. It was difficult to follow up when things weren't answered. They had mentioned they were doing all $1 million properties and how it was going to enhance our neighborhood so great. Well, nobody really wants to buy horse property in the middle of a neighborhood. Look at Sandy, West Jordan, where I came from before I moved here. And I don't know how you could possibly make all $1 million properties when you're leaving the existing house, and I could purchase it today with all 5 acres for less than that. So there's no way that that one's $1 million property. I also asked questions concerning Western Flats, previous projects, and whether or not they actually existed. I actually, in Department of Commerce, I own multiple companies and percentages in others. I recently purchased Western Flats. This is my company. You can look on the Department of Commerce all by yourself.
Start wrapping it up. Your time's up.
TCJ Investments is owned by Timothy C. Justice, another one they alluded to in an email that is a company they seem to own. We asked previous projects that these companies have done, more things that didn't get answered. At one point, somebody said, do you want to see our papers of incorporation? I'll be the first one to apologize if I'm wrong. But yeah, I'd like to see them, because I can show you these papers from the Department of Commerce that say I own that company.
Thank you.
I'd like to hand them to you if I could.
I'm good right now. If you want to attach it to your comment form, feel free to do that. Thank
So
you.
I have questions as to the legitimacy there also. And I don't think, well.
I appreciate your comments. Your time is up.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. There's the basket in the back. You could put your comment form in with it if you like.
My name is Dan Lewis. I live just a few houses to the east of this property. First, I'd like to tell Cunningham thank you for listening to the opinions from the homeowners with the previous meeting. They went through a lot of scrutiny and I appreciate the adjustments that they've made to take everybody's comments into consideration. I do want to ask a question to get some clarity regarding parcel A. There's been some comments floating around that the city wants that parcel, or are you gonna be keeping that for yourself? I'd like to hear if it is gonna be going to the city, what their plans are with that, or if you're gonna plan on keeping that. I don't know if this is
That could be a discussion you guys have afterwards. This is really just for public comments to bring additional information to us.
so there's concern that we want a better understanding of what is gonna happen with parcel A, if this proposed subdivision is approved, so.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hi. My name is Catherine Thompson, and I live adjacent to the property on the west side. There's two. I live in front of the Lees, so we're the two that are alongside that property line. My question is basically on the improvements that if they do put this subdivision in, what they are planning to do as far as improvements to the perimeter of this subdivision, if they're planning on putting in walls. I know they're talking about possible road improvements, but I would like to know a little bit more details about what the impact is going to be directly on our property line. And then the other question, I don't know if this is for the next set, the 4.1, but if they are developed into half-acre lots, will they still be agricultural? Will they be horse property? Or will they be zoned for that option? Those are the two questions that I have.
Thank you.
Smells really good over here.
Clean. Nice and clean, huh?
Very clean. There may be no varnish on it by the end of this, but that's okay.
Doesn't smell like the horse properties apparently, so.
If there's no additional comments, we will,
Hi, my name's Jane Kelleher Atkinson, and I live on Walker Vista Place, which is kind of kitty corner from the development. I'd like to talk a minute about non-use value impacts. Non-use values are things that you can't put a dollar value on. They include natural beauty, diversity of wildlife, woodland creatures, and avian wildlife, which have already decreased on our street as a result of the development we've already had. Where we live now, we moved there because we like this quiet setting, this rural lifestyle. We like to see stars at night. We like to hear the donkeys braying. I know it sounds kind of goofy, but that's why we moved there. And if we bring more development to our neighborhood, we're not going to have that. And it's going to definitely decrease our quality of life. The city of Herriman was originally committed to the country way of life. That was their motto. And that was what we were promised when we purchased our property and built our homes many years ago. We did not want to live in a high-density urban environment. And that's why we all moved here. We will have more noise, more light pollution, and much, much heavier traffic and less privacy the more homes that get developed in our neighborhood. Now, not only are people proposing to change our lot sizes and zoning ordinances to support more high density, but people are already violating the existing ordinances in our neighborhood by storing large motorhomes, shipping pods, school buses. When's this all going to stop? If we keep allowing more development, it's not going to. And what'll eventually happen is us people that have horse property will be driven out of the neighborhood, like in Sandy, like in Riverton. And I think that's the ultimate goal, to build high-density housing and get rid of all of us country bumpkins that want to ride our horses and live this country lifestyle. So where does it stop? I don't think I need to repeat all the reasons why we're against this development. Kathleen Lee picked up pretty much all of them. More noise, more traffic, it's not safe, it's a small road, the garbage truck can't turn around, The fire trucks can't turn around. They can't use the turnaround at the end because that's a private property, and he's already said he doesn't want people turning around. So I think there's a lot of reasons why we don't want it developed. And let's be clear, Mr. Cunningham doesn't care about our issues. It's about money for him. And he's already stated it's about his profit margins. He made that clear in the webinar that we had. And don't be fooled by his concessions to give us the 1/2 acre. I think that was all a ploy to make us feel all warm and fuzzy, but we still don't. So I'd like to end with a final disturbing thought. After this pandemic passes, a lot of people are going to relocate from the big city life. And where do you think they're all going to come?
Thank you. All right, if there's no other public comments. Oh.
Joe Cunningham, representing Mr. Cave Monroe as well as Western Flats. For those that are interested, Western Flats is a Wyoming LLC. So if you want to check Wyoming next time you're out and not worry about that. They're also registered in the county of Salt Lake County. They have several properties as well as commercial properties. So they are an existing entity. If I could quickly, Michael, if you could pull up the main overall plat. There's a few, the aerial that shows kind of the whole area, if you would, sorry, not the plat. There's a few things that we'd like to discuss. We had talked about homes that would possibly be a value of $1 million. We never claimed any that we were going to build $5 million houses there. There's one more that has kind of the overall, that's good right there. The other thing is in the developing, I've developed over 30 years throughout the state of Utah, a lot of different subdivisions and everything, and this is not an unusual thing. If we look at the Monroe property, which is located directly in the center here, that's the largest parcel in the area that's left. Everything else, as you look around that, you know, of course everybody wants it to stay the same because when they came there, the Monroes had that field. He's to the point where he can no longer take that. He is moving out, going to move into a smaller home in Herriman, stay in an area like that, and in order for him to get the money out of the property that he needs, then he'll need to sell it. It doesn't carry itself as a 5-acre horse property with an old farm house any longer. So the farmhouse will have to be redone, but as you look at what's allowed in there, the whole area is set as a low density, and the low density for the zoning in that, as you look at the map on your staff report, you know, that allows 1.8 to 2.5 units per acre that the city could approve. The math takes that up to 9 to 12. We didn't come in as developers and ask for 9 to 12 units. We asked for 5, which is equivalent to 1 unit per acre. This piece has some things that we have to deal with as developers. It has the water that runs down the creek through the center there. So we have to deal with the Army Corps and do a LOMAR report and see where that can be reduced and how that's going to come out. That's why parcel A is a separate parcel in the back of the property there. It'd be great if that could go to the city someday and it could be a city park and set up for a pavilion. That may not happen. We don't know how that's all going to come apart. If the Army Corps reduces the flood zone in there through the LOMAR, then perhaps we can get in and add that to one of the lots. Right now, the city's asked us not to include a lot of the flood zone area in the property. And so that's why we've got the lot lines in the back of lot 2 and 3 where they're sitting now, so as not to encumber that. But as we get that reduced, then you know, we'll have to see what happens there. But there's a half acre of property back there. As far as the hillside overlay, both lots 2 and 3, 3 is existing. There's no problem building that. 2 is a hillside. We'll build that. It'll probably have a walkout in the back, just like 3 has. It'll be a nice home. You talk about horses. The half acre zoning allows all 5 of these residents here to have a horse.
Sir, are you the applicant?
I am representing the applicant as the agent.
Okay.
I'm also representing Mr. Cade Monroe.
Okay, just because this was public comment that we were having at this point, we'll have another chance at 4.1 for the applicant to share additional information according to the rezone. This item will be continued. I appreciate you sharing this
There was
now,
a few
though.
items that
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify for the Monroe as the agent, so
Sure.
I can do that. And
Thank you so much. We'll let you guys come up at 4.1 and share additional on the rezone as well, though.
all right.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
So we are going to leave the public comment open, but we will be looking at a motion to continue it at this time, unless there's additional comments from the Planning Commission.
I'm comfortable making a motion to continue, but I also would like staff to look into 2 things. When I look at 4 and 5, it looks like they're really long spurs of land that go towards the creek to get their half acres. I need staff to look into that. I'm not perfectly comfortable in that, and I'd like to address that when it comes back. As well as I'd also like to look at the right-of-way discussion we talked about in the first item. It does apply to 139th, so engineering, I'd really like you to look at that before it comes back.
And that'll also tell us the exact size of 5 and 1, depending on some of those factors.
So I don't think we allow to do the little flag lot landscaping to get more acreage thing. So I'll let the staff work with the applicant on those.
Is
But
that
again, we're
access
not,
to ride your horse back to the creek?
I don't know, but I'm gonna let staff and them look at that, but I don't think we allow that. So I wanna make sure we address that before it comes back. But those are the only 2 items I have, and I'm ready to make a motion to continue.
Thank you, Adam.
Without date.
Motion made by Adam.
Recognize that.
I'll second. Or did you second?
I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna actually just have them look into one other thing. Somebody made a comment about possible access to the park and the ability to, have another way for the kids to get home from the junior high. So just thought that was a good comment to look into, if that's something parks would want to do or not.
And that can always come back with the subdivision if we see this again. All right, a motion by Adam and a second by Andrew. All right, and that's a motion to continue, and we'll call for a vote. Andrea? Jackson?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And Brody?
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to item 3.3, which is a request for a preliminary plot approval for Mount Ridge phases 1 and 2, which is including 94 townhomes and 12 single-family lots. This is on for a public hearing as well. And we'll turn to city staff.
Thank you. We'll just have one brief presentation that addresses both item 3.3 and 3.4. And then again, the applicant is here tonight to be able to answer your questions and make additional comments. Item 3.3 is the preliminary subdivision plat. This is a project that the commission is rather familiar with because we had a number of discussions with the master developer, which is Edge Homes, on the master development agreement, which was just recently approved by the city council. So this property has been rezoned and does have a planned development overlay. The base zone is R210. It's interesting to note that we have done a number of planned developments in this city in the past, but when we did an update to our city code about 2.5 years ago, we actually created a planned development overlay. So that's kind of a newer tool for us. Some of the recent development agreements that we've entered into, for example, the Hidden Oaks project, which we recently have seen, like the Ivory Homes and Perry Homes come in for some subdivision applications. Those also had a planned development overlay. So the base zone is R210 with this planned development overlay. Let me get this. Apologize. So again, this process, the preliminary plat, although it is an administrative process, we do require a public hearing with the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is the final decision maker on this type of application. Following any decision from the Planning Commission, staff will review all technical and engineering details on this project. The site plan approval is also administrative. However, yeah, again, the Planning Commission makes the final decision, but there's not a hearing per se on the site plan portion. The hearing is just on the subdivision. And this particular phase of the project has 94 rear-loaded townhomes and 12 single-family lots. This is the overall master plan for the project, and you can see highlighted kind of in that orangish color in the center is phases 1 and 2. We've included in your packet the layout for this phase of development. Again, very consistent with what was shown to the Planning Commission and the City Council as we reviewed this project. They've included details relative to the site plan approvals where we're looking primarily at like landscaping and any common amenities that are in this project. So those materials are in your packet. There is a set of architectural design guidelines in the MDA, and these are the images that are associated with this phase of development. Any questions for staff?
I have one. Item number 10 requires ensure a reduced discharge rate of 0.02 CFS. Why is that a tenth of the normal?
Obviously referring to one of our engineering review comments on the project.
No one else would probably know that. But.
That's actually the discharge rate to that waterway where that ends up at. It's a reduced one based on Salt Lake County requirement.
The county that reduced
yeah.
it.
You're going to see some more of these too, by the way, at 0.02. So
wow,
we're getting some more guidelines from the county on that. So
they overcommitted downstream, so they're trying to catch up now.
Yeah.
Calling it out, huh? Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask that one question.
Hold on to that. You're going to need it again.
All right, anything else? Michael?
Nope.
All right, then we'll now ask the applicant to come up.
This is sparkling here, this podium, so I don't even know if I dare put anything down on it, but I'll do it. So my name is Brandon Watson with Edge Homes. Just a couple of quick items, and I know we've got several items on the agenda tonight, so I'll just address all of it at once, and then again, I can come back up if there's any questions, whatnot. But I think one of the most important items about the phases tonight is we are providing with these first phases the storm drain outfall that we've had some discussions on with the past, both with Commission as well as with City Council, which is to provide a storm drain outfall all the way from Crest to and through this development, through Riverton and into Rose Creek, and that's ultimately where that restriction for the stormwater at 0.02 CFS comes from. But we do intend to comply with what's in the development agreement, which says we've got to build that day one. So we've already started the process with the state and with the county on getting that storm drain outfall, and we're working with Riverton to make sure we can get that through that way. But the landowner has, SLR has signed the development agreement and is aware of the easement that's needed to get through there. So that is very important for us to get started on that right away so that we can get that storm drain line in as quickly as possible. And as weird as it is that here we are coming into summer, I do have winter breathing down my neck, so I do want to make sure we try to get this stuff in as the storm drain outfall as quick as possible before we get any more rains and the winter comes, and with that comes runoff. So I don't have much else to add. Like I said, we've got several other items here tonight, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from Planning Commission?
No.
All right, you're gonna make it off easy.
Okay, I'll save one of these here because I'm sure I'll need it for other items.
By easy because we've talked about it like 400 times.
I know. This is on for a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing at this time. Wendy, were there any comments through email?
I did receive 3 email comments. The first one is from Lilac Roads. Hello, Commission. My question is about the building elevations for the Mountain Ridge townhomes. What is the likelihood that all 3 of the elevation types could be present on a single street? Is there an infographic available for how the elevations will be laid out? The styles don't appear to be very cohesive, and more could be done to make them complementary to each other. The contemporary style, David, is refreshing and, in my opinion, would be a welcome change. The more traditional stylings present in the Drake and Chantel elevations are all too common in a lot of townhome communities. Could the other 2 elevations be made more contemporary to help the development feel more uniform? Thank you. That's from Lila Rhodes. Here's a comment from Ashley Sanderson. Hi there. I received a letter in the mail notifying me of a City Planning Commission meeting on Thursday, 6/18. I am unable to attend, but I'd like to make it known. I wish for bigger lot sizes among the single-family homes. This one is from Courtney Poole. She states, I noticed on the new site plan submitted for review on Thursday, June 18th, that there are only 5 out of 94 single-family lots that are over 0.2 acres. In previous Planning Commission meetings, I know it has been discussed that the city is in need of more lots in the 0.2 to 0.25 acre range. This area would be a great opportunity to create at least a few more lots in this size. And she said that her comment here relates to both item 3.3 and item 3.5 and item 3.7. That's from Courtney Poole. And that's all of the email comments we have.
Thank you, Wendy. Any additional comments from those present? All right, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing at this time. And just based off some of the public comments, I'm going to ask the applicant to come back up and maybe, I know there's 3 phases here, but maybe just talk about the 3 phases for those that may be listening, if it'll answer their questions on just the different size of the lots, because right now, most of these are the townhomes, but the additional phase 5 and 6 is single-family lots, and so maybe we can talk about those, and then you have phase 7 and 8, which is single-family as well, and just maybe educate them on how that's laid out.
And also address the building elevations.
Yes, building elevations as well.
I didn't see any of those in our packet, so I was also gonna
Yes,
bring that
that'd
up,
be great.
Yeah, okay, so I'll start with the lot sizes, and so this has been an evolving projects, probably back to 2018, I believe, is when we started this. And we have reduced the density drastically from what we had on our very first neighborhood meeting, and we were welcomed by 75 neighbors and heard their feedback, and we actually had 2 subsequent neighborhood meetings after that in which we had kind of come down to what you're seeing before you today. And so we as we laid this out from a residential standpoint, single family, we kind of piggybacked off of what we had done in the Greystone area, if you guys are familiar with that, kind of in the southern end of Rosecrest, where we wanted to provide a variety of housing types from a single family standpoint. Those that are looking for a single family resident home, but they can't quite afford the 3-story larger lot. And so providing, you'll notice some of these lots, there's varying sizes and widths, and it really does create a really nice community as you create some diversity in who is moving into the neighborhood and what the buyer market is. So we do have 3rd-car options, we do have 2-car options, and we've kind of mixed and mingled those throughout the development. So, like I said, we piggybacked off what we had done at Greystone, and we've had really good feedback from that community there. So
So I'm showing 144 single-family homes. Can you maybe just reference what the ranges in those lot sizes are?
Sure. I think we have ranges anywhere from about 1/10 of an acre, which is about 5,000 square foot lots, and then I do think we get up into the 1/4 acre lot range. So especially those particularly around like on the southern end of the regional park, that 9.6 acre park, we do have some larger lots there, and then again they're just kind of scattered throughout so that we can kind of create that diversity within a neighborhood. As far as building elevations go, so these are alley load townhomes, and what's unique about these and what's really what I know our buyers that move into this have provided a lot of very valuable feedback to us, which is each of these units within them can be different materials, different colors, and really create diversity so that it's just not all the same architecture across the entire building. This is obviously just one example of what we can do. We can provide one unit that's all hardy, one that's brick, one that's board and batten, et cetera. So we do kind of create that diversity that way throughout the development. And we're creating, I think the individual had mentioned the Drake elevation that we have, which does have an element of kind of some Scandinavian architecture, which is a little bit more the trend right now. And so those are some different material types and colors that we would like to explore on this as well. So,
Have you established a plan then as to where these various elevations are going to be? I mean, you've got quite a few townhomes to build. Have you set up a scheme then for how those are going to be applied?
So our design guidelines are very specific. We can't have the same building next to each other, and so and I think with the individual units as well, you'll see that diversity across the subdivision. But it's very specific across the street, next to, and I think even diagonal from. We can't have the same.
But Edge is building all of this product.
Yes,
You're not selling this off to
Edge is
anybody right now.
yeah, we are the master developer and the builder within this development, yes.
I am kind of in the line that I'd like to see what you're gonna do, because I've seen a lot of this product, and sometimes it's the same everywhere. It's not your project, but necessarily. But I would like to see.
And I know in the packet it says type A, type B.
Yeah, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
and I don't know the
that
colors of
limits
what
it
type
to-
A and type B.
Does that mean
means.
that there's only the two, or is there more than that? Or
So
I mean, that's what.
one of the items that I think we should add on to the, I guess it would be the recommendation. No, I think it would be the site plan approval. Would be for the elevations to come back, and just so you understand what I would be looking for is just like you're showing us, but actually what colors are going on which side of the street, so we can truly get a flow for what it really is going to look like. That's my thought. Everything else I think fits, and I'm not going to have that likely on the other ones because they're not townhomes, but these townhomes I really do think we need to.
Well, I think
evaluate.
that's an interesting thought. There's kind of a color key of which colors are where. And
We've done that before where you basically have it a variety. I know we've done it, I think, on a couple of your Edge projects up the hill. But I think we need to kind of see that.
Yeah, is that plan
Because I know we never,
established, right?
I'll be honest, I
So-
don't think we always talked about sizes of lots and numbers of units. I don't think we ever talked about architecture whatsoever in any of our meetings that I'm aware of. Maybe briefly, but it was never really the big topic. It was where is a school going to be and where's not a school going to be.
Yeah. One of the uniqueness about this product type, though, is we do have an infinite amount of colors and material types and different things. So it might be a little challenging for us to come in there specifically and say, this unit on the right is going to be this color with this, to get in very specifically that way, is we do want to allow our buyers as well to choose whatever element it is on the exterior that they would like to see if they're going to come in here and buy that middle unit and they want to have a red brick or a
So they can
color.
pick whatever color and the next neighbor can pick whatever color. There's no.
We have, so in our design guidelines, we do have a very specific architectural review committee that will make sure that we don't have, every one of these isn't the
Not
same
red and
type of
yellow and
unit.
stuff like that next to
Right,
each other.
yeah, we want to make sure that we're being consistent across the community, but not clashing as well.
Yeah, for each one, you've got specified the different color palettes then that are applied, right? For instance, Drake, you had the 3 color palettes, David, 6 color palettes, right? So that they have to pick within those color palettes what they are working
Are
with.
they in the packet though?
I don't know if the color palettes are, but they do.
They have a couple of them in there, but not.
Okay, I couldn't see
But
them.
not-
I was struggling.
But it's just a couple. They don't.
I was
or
just
no.
struggling to
Actually,
understand
they-
what
that
was
was a
gonna look
different group that had the colors.
Brandon, how are your driveways on the alley load?
21 feet.
That's
21.
How, you say how long? WS, yeah. Everything in here, and it's in the development agreement that's been signed and ratified as 21 feet, both townhome and single families.
So to be clear, owners, as they purchase a place and move in, they'll be able to have some influence on the colors that are used on the exterior of the building?
Yeah, we have a selection that they can choose from, but we're not telling them that, hey, if they wanted to have, say, a white hardy siding or something like that, to say, well, you can't move into this building here until, 4 more phases until we get the next one down there. We would say, okay, if you wanted to have white here, then we can kind of work with them on different color schemes and material types that they can pick and choose from.
So is it possible that the whole building could be all brick?
No, well, it
See,
could,
that-
but I don't think
I
think
want to have
internally
you
our
show us
architecture-
what
Our
that
architectural
means.
review committee, I don't think we would allow that, so.
And that's what I want to be a little more comfortable with that myself,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what you mean, and maybe you already have that pre-designed in your development, your standards, but I don't feel comfortable at this time with that piece.
I think we had in our DRC meetings originally, we had talked to Bryn about having the city staff be part of our architectural review committee, and I think that was shot down really quickly, just because every building that would come in and every option, the city would have to do a DRC.
And I don't know that I
to
want to see
review
it.
all of those, so.
I think it's more so if a good outline is in place, then we know there will be diversity and it'll provide a different look to it. I mean, we're shown a picture of gray, white, and blue, and I looked at the other pictures. They're gray, white, and blue. And so it doesn't provide a really good scope of what you guys are going to do. I don't have any doubt you're going to provide a good product. It's just, unfortunately, if it's not defined a little bit better to us what it's going to be, sometimes we get all the same.
And I've noticed that in some of the areas in Riverton that have this similar type product. I don't know who built it, but it's the same colors that you're showing, and you can't tell which building's which. So that's why I want to put that requirement on, to see a little bit more understanding of what architecture is going to look like.
Well, Adam, I'm not trying to disagree. Is it in the MDA though? Can we do anything, or is that?
I don't know. Have I seen it? I haven't seen it.
They're saying it's been signed and everything.
I haven't seen a final copy, so I don't know what
Well,
it
it's been
says.
signed and the agreement's been made, we just don't know what it looks like, so,
Yeah.
but you're right, maybe we
Because
can't-
if we look at the master development agreement, it's right, it might all be answered, we might be perfectly fine with
I
it,
think what
we
I
haven't
did-
seen
Michael
it.
just leaned over to me before the meeting and said that was recorded this week, so it is recorded.
Yeah,
So
the-
it may.
Yeah, the
I don't
NDA 's
remember
been
it getting
recorded.
into that level though, as the architecture, that I remember. I remember it said it'd go to an architectural committee, but I don't remember it saying.
And that may be a bigger
Every-
issue. We were supposed to see every MDA.
That's
We
what I
didn't
thought
see
too,
this
so I'm
one. We
kinda-
didn't see this one, I don't think.
That's why I'm
We were supposed to
surprised.
see those as part of the process now.
Yeah, I thought so. But I'll be honest, ignoring the MDA, I just want to see the colors.
We can blame the new city attorney, maybe?
The other piece with this, and I think where she mentions or our commentator talked about the contemporary versus the traditional. And really, I look at it, and it's just single pitch versus double pitch on the gables. And I don't know because that's really the difference between the different styles. It's just single pitch versus double pitch. So it's, I wouldn't call it that much of a different style, but have you got any thoughts on that?
Well,
What your committee
I
might
mentioned
do
our
there?
Scandinavian architecture, which is kind of more of a different type of material type. That really does have a contemporary look to it.
That's the
and so-
David?
Sorry, say that again?
That one's the David, or?
No, it's just a different material type and color scheme from what you're seeing here on the screen right now. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And that one's, this one's the Chantel, okay.
This is the only one we have in this PowerPoint.
I'm looking at my packet, so.
Yeah, mine keeps crashing on that page.
Yeah, mine's a little slow in this, going through it.
Yeah, the next one was called the Drake there, Wendy, or there was, or in my packet. So we've got the three, we've got the Drake, the David, and the Chantel in the packet.
Yeah, I'm with Adam. I'd like to see what the possibilities are if things got crazy with colors.
Yeah,
and just see, what that could look like, since right now we have a lot of
And if
gray
it's
tones.
To answer with Lauren, I agree. If it's spelled out in the MDA, that's fine. Let's just see what that means. I don't know what that means.
I
I know
have
the
a
MDA
s-
was always related to the land trading and easements and storm drainage stuff that I remember, and density and what commercial should go where. I don't remember anything really on the architecture.
Yeah, if you would like, page 9 of the design guidelines, it's just a few paragraphs I could read if you'd like.
Sure.
Under architectural standards, it says architectural styles that include extreme colors, problematic materials, or styling will not be allowed within the Mountain Ridge community. So Adam, you were talking about kind of extreme colors. However, reasonable variations in the architectural styles and construction materials are allowed and will be necessary to give flexibility for future trends in the marketplace. There's a section that talks about floor plans and the necessity to avoid repeating floor plans, as Brandon mentioned. Under architectural styles, it says all edge home floor plans are encouraged for Mountain Ridge, and any of their available floor styles may be used. A variety of facade styles are available for each floor plan. The farm-style facade is favored for the character of the community, but any of the available facade styles may be used. Architectural styles should contribute to a unique sense of place. Avoid combining structural and decorative characteristics from different architectural styles into a single building. And then there's another paragraph that talks about if there was a second builder that's part of this project, but that doesn't apply to tonight's conversation. Minimum roof pitch says it shall be 512.
Yeah, I'm more just elevations and colors come back, so not big stuff. I'm sure you got them. But that honestly is the only one that I'm prepared to make a motion on, item 3.3, if everyone else is comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve item 3.3 with staff's 11 requirements.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. I should have mentioned this earlier. I just wanted to put it on record. I mentioned that the MDA for Mountain Ridge has been recorded. We still don't have recorded the amendment for Rosecrest, which removes this area from Rosecrest and puts it into Mountain Ridge. I mentioned that to our city attorney earlier tonight. I just wanted to put that on record. We have the understanding that Rosecrest will be forthcoming with that amendment and we'll get it signed and recorded. I just wanted to have that on record that that portion of this project has not been completed yet.
Then I will amend my motion to approve it and add another 12 that the Rosecrest amendment will be done prior to the approval of this.
Thank you. That's what I thought you might say. So,
Thank you, Adam.
I'll second.
Second, we'll call for a vote. Andrea? Jackson?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And Brody. And just for reference, that was a motion by Adam, a second by Andy. All right, now 3.4.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 3.4 with staff's 9 requirements with an additional 10 that the Rosecrest MDA will be amended, and number 11 that the site colors and elevations will come back for the buildings.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Adam and a second by Brody, and we'll call for a vote. Andrea? Jackson?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And Brody?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 3.5, which is on for a public hearing, so we'll go through the process again and look at city staff. Is there additional information you'd like to add to this?
So this is phases 5 and 6.
Correct.
81 single-family lots, same zone with the PD overlay. This map is showing where that is occurring in the master plan. The yellow there on the right-hand side of the screen. Again, we've included the subdivision information in your packet, as well as the landscaping and the various elevations. Again, I just read from you in the MDA that all elevations and floor plans that Edge Homes currently produces is compliant with the design guidelines.
Cool.
All right. Applicant, is there additional information you'd like to share?
Don't have any additional, no.
All right. I'll at least have you step back because it is on for a public hearing.
Wipe this down here.
Yeah, your wife's probably going to be jealous you're doing it here. So,
I think it is, right?
is there any
Yeah, you're
additional,
live. She's watching.
additional public comments from, maybe through email or anything else? No, Wendy? Okay. Then I'll turn to those present if there's any public comments from anyone here. I was pretty sure this is what was going to happen, but, so we will close the public hearing and turn to the Planning Commission at this point for a motion or additional questions. I only had one question, and that's just, and it's more relevant to, I guess, 3.6, and it's even going to come back, but I'm trying to remember exactly by Welby Jacobs Canal, the trail that was going to be there, how that was laid out.
Yeah, so with phases 5 and 6, and even the regional park, we'll continue, we'll build that trail all along Welby Jacobs Canal. And I know this is a kind of a graphic, but we've had some discussions at DRC to provide some bulb outs in that road that runs parallel to the canal for parallel parking, that if individuals wanted to kind of treat that whole site as a trailhead, I guess they could. And that it's I don't remember how wide it is. I think it's 8 feet wide, meandering trail, and it kind of jogs in and out, so those that park along there can jump right onto the trail system and walk to wherever their destination might be.
Okay, thank you. It'll be a nice amenity to the community.
And our HOA will be maintaining the landscape in that, which is spelled out in the MDA as well.
Cool.
All right, I had just a question, if I can go next. Here in Phase 5, actually, you're on just about the right page here, Wendy. If you look at the lots on the west side of Blue Ridge Way, I just want to make sure that these seem like they got extra narrow. Some of these might have, 54 feet, but it's at an angle to the street. And then if you look, what's the actual width on some of those lots? They seem to get really tight. And so I was wondering is it actually buildable? Or is it another townhouse that fits onto that spot just with
Sure. So
side yards?
I think our these lots along here are 50 feet wide, which accommodates a two-story house that we, some of our most popular two-story plans actually. So I don't think we go any less than, we might go down to a 48-foot wide lot, but I don't think we go much smaller than 50 feet wide, so.
Okay, but it does fit the houses that.
Yeah, it does for that. We do have enough depth in that. I realize it's at an angle, that back property line, which kind of creates a weird buildable envelope, but we have checked to make sure that those all fit our two-story plans that we have. So.
Okay, but these are definitely two-car garage only type.
Those, there's some like on the very, I can't see the lot numbers, but the one on the very south end, it looks like we do try to do 50-foot wide, 63-foot wide, and then 70-plus foot wide homes. So the 63-foot wide lots will fit our two-story homes with a third-car garage on them. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So these narrow lots, I just want to make sure they work. They just seem to get really small. So they're really narrow. They're deep, but
sure,
very narrow. So it seemed a little off. But okay.
But plenty of options for those lots.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Just for the record, the design guideline says that the minimum lot width is 40 square feet or 40 feet. Minimum lot area is 4,000 square feet.
Wow.
Which I don't even know if we even have 4,000 square foot lots on here, but yeah.
Or a home that would fit something like that.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't, they'll come back and do an amendment or put it on 2 lots. Right?
Any additional questions? All right, we'll turn to the Planning Commission for a motion.
I move to approve item 3.5 with staff's 9 recommendations, with the 10th that the Rose Crest MDA will be adjusted.
A motion by Adam,
I'll second.
a second by Andrew,
Yes.
and we'll call for a vote. Andrea? Jackson?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Adam,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
and Brody.
Yes.
And then 3.6,
I'll make a motion to approve item 3.6 with staff 7 recommendations with an alteration to add number 8 to amend the Rosecrest master plan. No, sorry, MDA. There we go.
I'll second.
a motion by Adam, a second by Lauren. We'll call for a vote. Andrea? Jackson?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And Brody?
Yes to that.
All right, thank you. And since 3.7 is on for a public hearing, we'll go through the process again. We'll turn to the city staff if there's additional comments.
Again, just for the public's information, phases 7 and 8 contains 51 single-family lots. Let me bring this over here on the screen. And again, this is for a subdivision review preliminary, and then a final site plan for landscaping and design.
Will you go back up to the big map? Just see where it's located on there. I think it's one up,
Sorry,
right there.
right here.
So the
Leave that.
pinkish. Okay, and so that has some of the same trail on the end. Well, I can't tell from here. Do you know if that corner is a park or just a huge lot?
Let's
One
go
next to the trail?
Yeah.
Right there.
Right there. Let's,
A lot.
So it is a lot. Oh, it's a bigger lot. All right. Anything else from the applicant?
I think on this, yeah, just a continuation of the trail that will actually tie it into Rosecrest. So that is kind of the last piece to get it all the way from there through the park. And then the lots that are on the south side, you can see them adjacent to, I don't know the name of the adjacent development, but they're similar lot widths and sizes to kind of be consistent with those homes along those existing homes on the south, so.
And these are the same single-family elevations that we saw in the previous
Yes.
presentation, right? Okay.
All right. Any questions? All right, then we do need to open this up for a public hearing. If you want to wipe that down again, just in case. Okay, that's more for my humor. I apologize. But, did we receive anything from you, Wendy? No.
Nothing from Wendy.
All right, then we will close the public hearing, and if there's no further discussion, we'll look for a motion.
I move to approve item 3.7 with staff's 9 requirements with an additional number 10 to adjust the Rosecrest MDA.
Motion by Adam and a second by Andrea, and we'll call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
And Andrea. All right, and item 3.8, we'll look for a motion unless there's further discussion.
I move to approve item 3.8 with staff's 7 recommendations with the amendment to add number 8, which is to amend the Rosecrest MDA.
I'll second.
Thank you, Adam. Second by Jackson, and we'll call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
And Andrea? Thank you. We'll now move on to item 3.9, which is a request for review of the courtyard elevations for the Bellevue development. And we'll turn to city staff.
This is a subsequent presentation from this applicant. The commission, as you know, recently approved an amendment for a planned development that was approved previously a few years ago by the city. And the planning commission had requested that building elevations be returned and shown to you tonight. So the materials have been submitted by the applicant and were provided in your packet. They're obviously here tonight to be able to answer your questions to see if this meets with your satisfaction. But again, they're just coming back because you had asked them to do so. So as the packet and the materials here are showing the old courtyard and the new courtyard elevations, so just those, you can see those changes.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else, Michael?
No.
All right, then we'll ask the applicant to come up and just share any additional information on this.
It's good to be back before this illustrious group. I'm Loyal Hume and was here a couple weeks ago, and we got most of those conditions done and wanted to come back and show you what we've been able to put together. I brought a ragtag group in Think that's now, we beat up all for the last 2 weeks, and they've been up late going back and making sure that we complied with all your requests. I think that hopefully we've been able to meet maybe even more than frankly we thought we could do, but we're really, really pleased. And we used Chris's suggestion and Adam's suggestion in terms of let's look at what it was before in the proposal. And again, remind you, it was simply a proposal at concept a couple years ago. But now here are the actuals, and we're really, really pleased about the way it looks and how closely they are. So maybe, Mike, if you'd be so kind, let's back up just a little bit. Maybe, no, one more, one forward. The only issues are these 3 slides. Just go one forward if you would. Right there. Oh, back one. There we go. Perfect. So what we'd invite you to do is we try to have the 3 different elements looked at from different views. So look at this one, and you can see how closely it is to what we'll call the new one. The old is on top, the new is below. So take a peek at that. Then from another view, Mike, if you'd be so kind as to scroll down. So the old one was on top, the new one is below. We think in each of these cases you're finding more character, basically the same concepts, but we think improved.
Mike, can you hit -1? Like zoom out just a teeny bit?
Sorry.
Thank you.
There we go. Perfect.
Awesome.
And then the final one, if we could. And again, in each case, we think very, very similar, but where there's differences, we actually try to add a few things like the little courtyard characteristics and a few things that would add some character to it. So with that, again, we don't want to waste a lot of your time tonight. We hope that meets what your hope was. And
what is the material that looks, I'm sure it's just a shading thing, but the bluish green shade on several of those, I just was curious. That was the only thing that to me, again, not an architect, I'm going to turn over to Jackson. It was
No,
like, that just didn't fit, but in my opinion.
Yeah, what we were told tonight to bring some packets. Because of COVID, we didn't bring the ones that you pass around and worry that everybody gets it, so we brought the electronic version. So if we could turn to that, Mike's wonderful, he's got it up for us. So we'll just show you those colors. The prior approvals were above. We tried to update them just a little bit, but both. So look below, and you can kind of see wherever there would be brick, that would be the brick that was proposed. Anywhere that there are color in the picture, you'll see those 2 colors they choose from, and just kind of vary those, and then those are the other materials. So very simple palette, meant to be really nicely integrated. Does that answer the question, Adam? I hope it does.
Can you go back up? So basically, if it's colored at all, it's either blue or green, or
well,
clay or whatever the other color was
It's
called?
going to mostly be white, but you'll see on the pictures where there is color, it will go between the clay and the refuge. Those are the 2 colors. Yep, there's clay and refuge. So if you see anywhere where there's color on the building, we'll use design specialists who go through and do that, because you don't want everyone to just be cookie cutter. That looks kind of weird in your developments. But if you'll have anywhere you see color on those buildings, they'll just be one of those 2 colors. And we'll have professional design people kind of rotate those a little bit so that you're able to really kind of get a feel for what that'll look like.
Cool. The fiber cement lap siding there, the blue is the blue. Is that correct?
Refuge, yeah.
So is the top one what you previously were using? The top one?
I wouldn't even know what that means. It's blue, but that's the architectural refuge, yeah.
Come on, Jack.
I'm sorry, Chris.
So, no, but the top one is what you previously were proposing and the bottom is what you currently are proposing?
Correct, exactly right.
So I mean, to me, the color scheme looks nice. So the only question I had is, so you're going from an
Mike,
actual brick to a brick veneer?
Could we jump back on that? Oh,
no,
I'm sorry.
it was
on the
there.
brick veneer.
Yeah, so are you going from a brick to a brick veneer?
I don't think there's any difference, to my knowledge.
It's the same.
It's,
Okay,
it's
so
the
it's-
same material, it's just. a
I'm not
slightly-
I'm not an architect, so.
It's the same, it's just the way, it's, they're both the same.
I think
Yeah,
it's,
the
are
same.
we, is this a whole brick?
Yeah, that's
or
what I'm
is it a
thinking.
Can
I'm
we
thinking it's a
clarify if
different
this is a
product.
whole brick or a split face?
Yeah,
or
that's
is
what
it
I'm
just
curious about.
A panel? I've seen.
Like,
It's a whole brick.
Okay, because to me, it sounds like a brick veneer is like a half. That's what it made me think of. So,
It's a
okay.
whole brick. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think you met what I was looking for, so
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, I'm happy with what I see. I think you
Thanks,
provided
Chris.
a better product, so.
Think we'll get some sleep now. We appreciate that.
I haven't slept since I saw you last, so.
As long as Corey was up late.
There you go. There you go. Well, listen, we appreciate it. Would entertain a motion and hopefully take care of this tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any additional questions real quick, or are we good? All right, thank you.
I want to make sure it is brick, I would say in the recommend.
Just in your motion or your decision,
Yeah.
just clarify that.
Just clarify.
That's great, go ahead.
But I don't know if it's just an architectural term for the installation.
I know, it's above our level, so, no.
I mean, I have a comment. I like the old courtyard better. I think it's because like tiers with the roof line and more pop-outs and more windows. That's what I think makes the top one work better than the bottom one. That's just my thoughts.
And when we say old courtyard, that is the original proposed from the very, very beginning, and then they came with an adaptation, and now they come with something in between the two. I think it's sort of how to look at it, if I'm right.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the top one looks more like farm, and the bottom one, I guess, is more of a modern feel to it. So
Modern farmhouse. I think for me, I'd just make a quick comment. I think the lower does do a better job of enclosing the courtyard. And then with the landscaping, they've done a great job at creating some layers of privacy. So as you go back in, you know, the residents within these courtyards kind of have their area, their courtyard.
And I think the reason, like originally in the old courtyard, there was no central courtyard. It was really facing the street.
Yeah.
And now they have it still a central courtyard with how it's designed.
Yeah, that was with the different product, with the parking
Yeah.
in the garage.
And so I'm actually pleased with
Yes,
it. I'm pleased with the difference, and so, at least for me, I'm
Still
pleased
think
with the
the
work they
first
put
was
in.
an amazing product, but
Yeah.
I like this one.
Yeah, I think they've done all right. So, we'll look at a motion if anyone's ready to do that, or if there's additional questions. Brody, you're looking very intently, Brody,
Lauren
so
looks
I'll
like
ask
he's ready.
you.
Lauren's got this.
Make a motion to approve item 3.9, review of the courtyard elevations with one requirement that the brick be a full brick.
All right, thank you, Lauren. Motion by Lauren,
I'll second.
second by Jackson. Thank you, and we'll call for a vote. Andrea? Jackson?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And Brody?
yes to that.
All right, thank you so much. Now, we will move on to legislative items. We only have one for tonight, and it is on for a public hearing. And it's item 4.1, which is a request for a rezone from A1 to 8.5. And we'll turn to city staff.
Okay, we've already discussed some of these issues. Again,
They knew it.
This is a rezone which would require city council approval. The role of the planning commission is to give a recommendation to the city council. The request is consistent with the general plan. As far as the density is concerned, low-density residential, 1.8 to 2.5 dwelling units per acre. And based on that consistency, I believe the staff recommendation is for approval.
All right, thank you. If the applicant's present, would like to share any additional information.
Travis Cunningham with the Western Flats, and I just kind of want to agree to what Michael was saying. We're kind of in the same density that's already been approved. When we originally met with the city and talked about putting additional homes on this property, they wanted us to try as best as we could to put a cul-de-sac on the property and try not to stack homes like have been done on both sides of the property. They wanted us to do our best to try and create a cul-de-sac, provide an area for emergency vehicles to turn around, provide an area for neighborhood people to, you know, turn around and not kind of take up the whole road. And so with the density that it's in right now, I mean, we could figure out a way to put 10 to 12 homes on there, which is not what we're asking to do. We're kind of looking for about half of that. And with the half-acre zoning, I think it kind of works well with the complaints of the neighbors. It allows us to have each lot be a horse property and have the space that's required by the city to own a large animal on that property. And I just like to touch real quick with Adam's comment from earlier when we were looking at the plat. When we with lots 4 and 5. We didn't really design them as flag lots as much as we were providing those 2 lots with personal access to the park. And if they are actually people that own horses, that gives them the opportunity to take their horses from their property directly up to those upper facilities. So that's kind of was our thought on that, so.
Makes sense. We've never allowed that kind of thing
Yeah,
because it gives you so much land.
Yeah, and so in this case, it's
just something I wanted you and staff to work through.
Yep, and so depending on how we work the open space, then we'll have continuous access to get down through to the other horse property that's down there, so.
Any questions?
I do. So I know we've heard a lot of people talk about using their horses, and that's could be good access to get to the park where there's the equestrian park. Has it been thought of to make it like an access for the neighborhood to get to the park?
It has and hasn't. We've had a few people that say they would like to have the access because they currently have the access, but we also have had residents tell us that they don't want the extra access. There are a lot of people, they've said, during fireworks and larger events that park up there on that road and then cut through their personal properties to try and get down to some of those things. And so, I mean, it's not something that we're 100% against having. It's just we've had voices in both directions. So, it's just kind of what's best for the general group, so.
Can you speak a little bit more to parcel A and kind of?
The issue with parcel A is in our original meeting with the city, we do have down below the creek, it's underneath where it's labeled A1, and it's currently if you go up
The
to the
floodplain.
Well, if you
Well,
go
you showed the floodplain. I
Rezone
think
right
that's
there.
what he's talking about.
go
Next one.
Right there works.
Oh, that works too.
Well, actually go up about 3 or 4 to there's a black and white one that has the actual floodplain drawn on it right there. And so the issue with this subdivision is that we're working currently with the issue of the floodplain and it not being a buildable area. And so that's why the cul-de-sac is up higher. All the homes are up higher. The drawing of the home there is the current existing home. And so parcel A currently is the upper area of the floodplain. And in talking with the city originally, we were under the impression that they wouldn't allow any new developments in the floodplain. And so currently it's just kind of labeled parcel A, but if we can work with FEMA to reduce the floodplain, we would probably keep that area in the current lots unless it's a parcel that the city's interested in having it on its parks and trails plan. I know when you look at the plan in general, there is access at the bottom of the ball field, but there's not really access that connect the trails to the ball field, and so that's kind of what we were working with originally with the parcel A idea. But the size of parcel A, we really won't know if, what it will be until we get through reducing the floodplain with FEMA, and if the city has interest in it or not, so.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, if you're able to reduce it, you'd add it to lots 3 and 2. Would that be the case?
Yeah, it just depends on how much FEMA lets us reduce the floodplain, what becomes a buildable area, and it can go back just into lot 2, or it can go back into lot 3. It would also become a portion of lots 4 and 5 with their access towards the park.
I don't have any other questions related to the zone.
Thank you. Thank you. And we will open the public hearing at this time.
Tyson Rance, I live just east of it, right next to Jessica, where the house that she's right next to or in front of. I just want to say I have no problem with the with it being subdivided how it is now, as long as Herriman does something with the water pressure. Besides that, how they haven't they've done it. They went to our complaints. They put it at half acres. I have no problem with it at all. So that's about it. So sorry I have to run. I just got a call.
Thank you.
Sorry if I said something that was wrong about the company. I don't know. It didn't seem to show up at Department of Commerce here in Utah. And wanted to reiterate that in like 2007, there were multiple people that attempted to rezone on the street. Some of them, Garcia's at the end, and this was to half and 1 acre lots. The half acre lots were all denied at that time. Nothing has changed since then. And even Garcia's at the end of the street that wanted to do 1 acre lots were told no because the street's capacity was filled. That if they wanted to, theirs would have to face Rodeo Acres, the street behind them. They were the only possible ones left on the street. So to rezone something at this point seems like that should have set a precedence at that time. Why were they denied if people are allowed to now? Because none of the safety rules have changed whatsoever. So I guess that's about it.
Thank you so much.
And as my wife pointed out also, this street's a dead-end street. It goes from Mirabella clear to 6400 West. I don't know if you're familiar with it. If not, you should take a field trip. But only notifying the people within 300 feet of the property when it affects every single person and the traffic affects every single person on that street seems wrong also. They should have all been notified, and you would have probably had a bigger outcome here tonight against it.
Wendy, do you need to state his name for the record, or you got it from previous?
If you could state
Just
it,
state your
that'd be
name.
great, so I don't have to lip search for it. What was your name?
Craig Atkinson.
Thank you.
Nathan Hardman, and just second his comment that I don't know if you have done this, but before you make a decision or recommendation, I would encourage the Planning Commission to take a field trip, to drive down the road and see what it's like. Maybe park your car, take your significant other, family, whatever, walk down the street and see if you feel like that street is safe enough to add more traffic on that street. And I don't know if the city has recently done a traffic study, to have, you know, some quantitative numbers to go with some of these qualitative comments that have been made. But I would encourage the city to do a traffic study to understand, can this street really handle more traffic demand by adding more houses along that road? So I'd ask the city if they would consider doing a traffic study before making this decision. And then go and look and see if we feel like this can safely handle additional traffic on that road. Because I would say last year, there was one incident where a conflict between individuals had escalated to the point where a loaded firearm was produced, and luckily it de-escalated, but you know, there was a police report made, but that's the level of concern for safety along that road, where conflicts are continually escalating. So I'd encourage the city to do what they can to try to mitigate that before they put in more housing and put more demand on that street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no additional public comments, we'll close the public hearing at this time. And then we'll turn to the Planning Commission.
Michael, can you go to the overall zoning map? Just, I think if you go
It's
up.
the very last page of our packet. I don't know if-
First page, I know mine keeps crashing every time I try to get there. Packets are getting too big. That one's what I'm looking for. Can you zoom out one if you can at all? So I'll be honest, I've been involved with the city for a long time. Been a planning commissioner now, I think 6 years. And I've always heard that this road would stay A1. I remember when all of the other developments above that, where the idea was that they were a transition between Rose Creek and the park. I'm kind of, I know it's only, to me, there is no reason to rezone to an 8.5 if they're only asking for 5 lots, because it's an A1 and there's 5 acres. So to me, I don't understand that. So I'm worried that it's really, not saying this developer, but it could be a rezone, and then the other person that comes in after the rezone comes in with an 8.5. So I would only be comfortable to even include a ZC to limit to a 5. But what I'm really worried about is Herriman's invested a lot of money into the park. And all of the land around here was always planned to be 1 acre. That's why Rodeo Acres is 1 acre. If you look at it, I remember that when they put that in the protection strip that person paid for to protect their land and recoup the roadway for that, if anyone north of them developed, was a lot of discussion. And so I am actually I am gonna say that I'm against the rezone, because I think they're asking for 5 lots. They have the ability to do 5 lots. They just need to make them 1 acre. So I don't see the benefit in the community right here. As well as I'm worried, if you look at, and I'm sure that, I'm not saying some of these people live in these, but if you look at the flag lot looking one next to it, it easily could be the next half-acre subdivision. Not saying everybody says that. I've been working with the city since 2002.
Everybody says they'll never do it.
Seriously, I've been working with the city since 2002. And I've heard that in this area, never, never, never. And that's when I can't remember the one across the street, they all came in, and I remember all those discussions. So my concern is we are going to get rid of all of that pressure, and it will go to a half acre, and we'll just redevelop that whole area.
Well, and my question to you was it Ken Court across the street?
Yeah, that's the one.
How was the history there?
Ken Court was originally going to be one person was going to develop, and then in order to get it to be big enough, and that's why we allowed that density to even be there, they went and got 2 other pieces of land. So that was originally, I can't really see it, but originally when the Goff project, that's Horizon Ridge Lane on the 8.25 is, when that one came in, there started to be a lot of pressure in this whole area to really rezone. And it was a big discussion. I don't know if I'll have to have the engineers look into the water and the roadways, but there was a water pressure then issue and a roadway issue, because the city does have a 139th tie-in with Rosecrest Road and 6400 West discussion that they've tried to have. But all of that would pressure this area to change completely. And I feel that the city's made a big investment in this area for this type of use.
But I think having horses next to the park there is just, I think it's a great amenity. So
Correct.
that's kind of where I sit.
And so to me, I think keeping them at the zone they're at, they're asking for 5 lots. I don't
find a way to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I'm at.
I would have to say I'm not far off. I agree.
Now, it's really weird because, you know, I'm sure the other residents will look at it. We've been talking about other lots where we're talking about 4,000 square feet, and now we're here. But I think that's what we need to fight for, is to preserve it.
And Michael, obviously the zoning's A1 right now. What is the general plan? And I know it's changing, but what is the general plan in this area?
As we mentioned earlier, it's low-density, single-family. Had that density range where the 8.5 is consistent with that range still. The A1, of course, is also consistent with that range. You know, in a legislative matter, when you're dealing with a general plan or a zoning change, the state actually does give the city a lot of latitude. Other land use issues that come before the Planning Commission, we are expected to follow certain standards, and we have to be very careful when making a decision that we are making decisions on those findings. In this matter, though, the Planning Commission, again, is a recommendation to the City Council, and the City Council has the liberty of agreeing, disagreeing, approving, denying. Your role is just to make a recommendation to the City Council on the matter. And there's a lot of flexibility. The only concern really legally that the city has is we make sure we do this we follow the public due process measures, the noticing that was mentioned. 300 feet is what's required by the state. We follow that standard. Yes, it's possible we could do more, but that is what's required by the law. Making sure that we are we're having all of our discussions in a public meeting like we are. Those are the kinds of things that we have to be careful with. But certainly the commission can make their own recommendation on the matter.
Thank you. I have to admit, when I looked at this property, I was thinking, okay, it's half acres, and then I look at the surrounding area, and I look at everything going on, and it's A1, and my thought immediately went to, I have to think about this property without a house on it. I mean, right now there is a house on it, but if somebody came to me and it was zoned A1 and there was no house on it, they could fit 4 lots on it. They'd put a road down it and they'd fit 4 lots on it. That's how it would work. And it would be A1. And they're asking for 5, but then they're substantially changing the size of those lots. They're dropping from a 1 acre to a half acre. And I know a lot of that's due to there being a house on it, and they're trying to adapt it around that house. My personal opinion, I think, leans towards Adam and some of the others that I don't really see why we changed the zoning on this or recommended to the city council of changing the zoning. I think it's conducive to the area to leave it as an A1. I know there's issues with how they would do that if they wanted to get more lots. There's several different parameters, but I don't really need to take that into consideration for this area. I have to look at it from the perspective of what is the zone? Is it conducive to the area? Is that something that should remain in that area? And at least with my opinion, that's how I feel. That A1 makes sense where it is, and with a recommendation, which granted, I don't make the recommendation here, it's the rest of the body, but my opinion is that it makes sense to leave it as A1.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I think looks like you could get 4 lots on there pretty easy, and I think there's high demand for bigger lots. I see the quarter acre lots in Herriman, they sell out within months. I think you will get $1 million houses on 4 lots if they're over half acre. So that would be.
Well, you can kind of see that because that's what's happened at Rodeo Acres, which is right there. Mike, can you you know where Rodeo Acres is, right? Go right above.
Is that little cul-de-sac, isn't it?
The little cul-de-sac right at the end, right as you drop down the hill. And that is a substantial, go up north, or west, I'm sorry, right there, the cul-de-sac, right there in the screen, off 64th. The other thing I forgot to mention is, can you pan down a little bit? just because I want to point out how much things change. When originally, keep going one more time. The cul-de-sac that's right next to the middle school, the double cul-de-sac thing right there. The landowner, I can't remember his name, but he swore to me he would never move. I remember this in 2004. He would never move, and he was so up in arms about the one up on the hill. The next week he came in because they got the density and he got the density. So that's why I'm really also going to make a recommendation when everybody's ready that I think we deny.
Wanted to comment real quick.
Yeah, that's why I said when everybody's ready to deny it. I'm trying to give some meat for council of why they understand why we're denying it.
I agree. And
From
we
my
always talk about buffers between areas, and I think the buffer between what that area of Butterfield Park and what it represents and the horse country and everything else, I think it needs to stay along this area.
You want to keep horses next to Butterfield.
But can't you do horses in A5?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
You can.
I mean, I'm just going to speak, I don't agree. I think A5 is, 8.5 is, for me, works. I think there's a lot of I think there are a lot of half acres around there. That whole cul-de-sac we just talked about, that's beautiful, that comes right off of 6400. I think that's same thing. We're right up against the park there, so I don't buy that we're protecting that. I get it, but I don't.
But those are full acre lots. Those aren't half.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So I think that's where I think I would recommend putting the condition on at 5, max of 5, but I don't, again, I respect it, but I don't have a problem with it.
I agree with Adam. I think they need to stay 1, and just mainly because of preserving, but also the precedent. We don't want the other lots to be divided up in the future. And so as the PC only makes recommendations to the city council, I just want to encourage the residents to go to the city council meeting and make sure that you express that, and then let your neighbors know as well. And to Michael's point where we do a notice of 300 feet, I would like to look into expanding that as well.
All right. Any other comments from the Planning Commission? Oh, I do see the house that
I have one.
the one citizen talked about.
Yeah, I think the residents bring up a good point as far as the road goes. As far as capacity of the road, I think they have a good point where doesn't allow for utilities, just like snow removal and those other things to turn around. So I do think there's a hazard and safety issue there that needs to be addressed, and maybe a traffic study needs to be done to look at capacity, but I do think that's an issue.
I agree with you. I think that's coming, for me, I would be coming at the subdivision phase, but I agree.
Yeah, I think this becomes another one of those roads that we looked at earlier that need to be addressed at some point, but all right.
So I'd like to make a motion if everybody's comfortable with that.
Recommendation, but yeah.
Yeah, I make a motion to
Recommend. There we go.
denial of item 4.1 due to the fact that this provides a form and function to the A1 area around the surrounding and to transition from the 8.5 across the street to the park, which is A1. So to keep it consistent with this area and to minimize other areas.
I'll second that.
Motion by Adam, a second by Jackson, and we'll call for a vote. Andrea?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Lauren?
No.
And Brody?
Yes.
All right, so that will move on to City Council. They will be the final body that makes a decision on this. This was just a recommendation. And that is the last item with legislation, or legislative item. We will look at, is there any additional comments from the Planning Commission?
I have 2 small ones. One is, no matter what, I think we need to look into 139th South ownership and right-of-way. I think that's something we need to look at, because no matter what happens, that's an issue that will be coming up, whether they do a 4-lot subdivision or a 5-lot subdivision or whatever it becomes. And then I have another one that it's just, I've noticed, and I would like to make it fair for our residents to see, but the graphics on the screen, they're really blurry.
I
And I
noticed that
can't
tonight,
see,
too.
I can see it on the packet you send out, but I can't see it on the screen. So
Yeah.
if we could do something with staff to make it so that people can see what we're talking about, because I'm having to flip to my device
Yeah.
instead of look at this screen. So I think we just need, if you could look into it, I'm sure it's some PDF setting or something.
Yeah, I agree. I noticed that as well. That was a problem tonight.
And then the only other comment I have is the master development agreement. When a project comes in that just barely had a master development agreement applied to it, I think it's pretty relevant for it to be added into our packets.
Okay.
I have one comment as well. Just, I don't know if it's just the R2 10 zone, but I did notice, and I think this is kind of common, just not in Herriman, but a lot of other cities where the single family, the side setbacks are 5 feet, but the multifamily is 10 feet. And what I see is when you get these large homes on these small lots is they look like detached townhomes, how they build them with no character on the side because they're going 2 stories straight up, 5 feet apart from each other, and it just does not look appealing. It looks
And I'm
like they're
guessing that
townhomes that are
typically goes
attached.
through the master development agreement
Yeah.
where that gets
So,
caught.
I would like to see 10 feet setbacks, and what we're gonna get is better homes on and little larger lots, because we have 4,300 square feet on some of these lots, and to me it just doesn't have a good look and feel.
Is that, Michael, is that like a recommendation in looking at, like, is that more the master development agreement where that has to be applied, or is that from an ordinance perspective, or
zoning
or
ordinance.
zoning? I mean, where would that be most applicable to have the impact?
Obviously, we want to probably review our base zone setbacks. But the challenge, of course, is that whenever we do these master development agreements and plan developments, typically a developer is asking for modification of those setbacks. So for example, the 40-foot wide lot in the project tonight, that was approved by the MDA. So yeah, we need to pay attention to both.
And I think, I agree with what you're saying on the 10 feet, but it does start to limit the minimum size of the lot, which I think might be a good thing.
Which I kind of
but
like
it's
that.
something we got to evaluate because I know most of the effect would be very difficult to do some of the higher density, which I actually am in line with, but at the same time, it may be overlooked so frequently by MDAs and little fine print that we miss. It might not be something we catch all
Well,
the
it's
time.
depend on where
what
it's
I
at.
what I get at too is we I have more design guidelines on multifamily, and they get away with less guidelines by doing really tight single family homes.
Yeah, I think Adam's been talking about that for a little while, and I think it needs to be readdressed with the city council. That if we do, because we do have a lack of inventory in, I think, those 0.2 acre to 0.25. I mean, even looking at what was proposed today, there was almost none that were located that were over 0.2. And I know they said there were a few, but when I looked through all the slides, I didn't see a single one. And except for maybe that corner that might have fallen there. There might have been one or two, but it was very, very sparse. So we were really at 0.11s to 0.16s, which were 99% of them. And I'm noticing, at least from a townhome perspective, with what I'm seeing nearby, is they're moving out of the city because there's no upgrade to those single families with a little larger lot. That's inventory. We're lacking the inventory.
Yeah.
We're not lacking the inventory on townhomes. And so,
The other thing to what Brody was saying is, I agree completely that we really need to start focusing on the multifamily and standards. We've talked about this. I know. I think I brought it up 2 years ago.
You have.
And I think it's time that maybe we, and I'm gonna ask city council if they need to get involved. That's fine. We need to start spending some time on that and slow down on some of the growth, because it's getting to the point where The old planning commission, Brody, used to call them single scaffold homes. So you put one single scaffolding and do the stucco on both houses with one set of scaffolding. But it's time, we need to address this because we have to start, our future is still gonna keep trying to push these higher densities, but we have to have something to ensure that at least that product is built well.
Yeah, one of the reasons why we haven't moved on that is, as you know, any changes we make now will not be retroactive on all of the development agreements we've already entered into.
Perfect.
And the appetite of the city right now is we haven't done any new, so.
That's fair.
Anyway, but we still want to address those with you. We're hoping that the general plan will have some good supporting language for making some of these changes that we've been talking about. As far as setting policy and saying that this is the direction we really want to go in. So,
I mean, But for example, to go to Brody's point, if we would have done it 2 years ago, the one that we just approved tonight would have been, that was before Edge even talked about swapping land. So it would have been resolved.
Yeah, and one thing, I mean, with the setbacks, what you end up getting is a square box and no windows on the sides because they don't want them to look into each other's homes. And so I just feel like we lose architectural character in a lot of buildings because we allow the setbacks to be 5 feet from the lot line.
Yeah, I think the setbacks alone are not the solution, though. I mean, I think that's something we need to look at, but I think it is coming back to those design standards.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I still think we need to look at maybe lowering some of the single-family requirements down. Because I think to encourage smaller homes on bigger lots, because the land value is so high, that I do think you'd start to see more people do a shift towards, I mean, tiny homes are a huge thing. I'm not saying we go to that level, but right now our current standard for single-family residential is pretty big and substantial, that when you expend a lot of money on the land, you won't be able to afford those larger lots. And that's why I think we are actually forcing the product to go to the more postage-style lots.
And I agree with that.
And that was the same dialogue we had in the same discussion 2 years ago. So if we could maybe look at both of those two and maybe we lighten up. I think our intent was to get brick and nice amenities, but I think we kind of pushed ourselves out of the market.
Well, that might be affecting why we're not getting those 0.2 to 0.25. I think we might.
I agree.
Might be affecting the affordability. So it's just as cheap to do the price would put you in a townhome at that point anyway, so, or on a bigger lot, so yeah.
But I know, like, in the neighborhood next to me that Mayor Freeman subdivided after he left office, the thing's sold out completely. And those are thirds and halves.
Yeah, everything I'm seeing around me too, same thing. And if it's in between 0.25 to a half, they're gone.
But the issue is even those 0.25s to half, and the scale of the home is forcing it to be in the $600-700 price range. Mm-hmm. Where I think if we pulled the house down, you'd see more people picking the other products as well.
I think the house would still be expensive. I don't think.
You do?
Yeah, I agree right now.
I think the market just pushes it that way.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean, you're making it, I'm going to live there for 20 years, right, if you're going to go to that level. But again, for me, I see better product in the end.
But it's just kind of a numbers thing. If you do 10 $300,000 townhouses on half an acre, you make $3 million. If you do one house at 700,000, you don't make as much.
Exactly.
And so it's really about, we've got to look
at the zoning,
the density
and requirements and general plan. That's why it's so important.
But if we can beef up those requirements and those multifamilies to make it so that it's more cost prohibitive to go to a smaller house is what I'm trying to say. So put a lot more requirements on them to pull back to the other side.
I would say that's where we, talk about quality open space. I think we've talked about that before too, but we haven't really gotten into it. So to use our training time for those things.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I'd be happy to, I'll be honest, I don't know how you all feel, but I'd be happy to go through an ordinance with staff if I know you're busy. Every time we have the first half hour rather than training, because I know we're always talking about what they've approved, I'd rather go through our ordinance and say, okay, what would we like to change, and start at least discussing it so we give you a guideline.
Okay.
Yeah. Pick a section and pick I mean, tell us what we're gonna do so we can come prepared to tell you what we want ahead of time. But I think that would be a good dialogue to start, to make it so you're not trying to do a guessing game from the beginning.
And on top of that, I think instead of some of the work meetings that we've had, maybe even choosing areas of the city that we may want to discuss and start to get educated on what we're seeing, what the potential is coming in, and just general of here's the zone, how are we protecting it with what we want to see? Because some of that becomes, we're reacting instead of being proactive, but it's because we don't know that the potential of these things happening are going to happen right now.
What we may need to be doing is having more work session time. You know, oftentimes the city council will have work session, regular meeting, and then return to a work session. If that's what the commission wants to do, we can certainly facilitate that.
I think we're okay. I think we're okay with that if we can have a planned meeting that has more of these items that we can be proactive in trying to help improve.
Okay.
Especially
Sounds
where
good.
if we could review it beforehand so we come prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're like, okay, here's the ordinances that we're going to address, here's one of the areas that we're going to address, and here's some of the problems we've seen or foresee may occur, and then we can brainstorm and try to see how we can improve and make changes and recommendations to the council on this is a problem that will occur if we don't address it now. And I think about the area by Anthem. The reason why they got the density they got is because they thought Salt Lake Community College was going there. It would have never had that density if they didn't think Salt Lake Community College was going to go there. But when Salt Lake Community College changed their location, no one was proactive in saying, now we have to change the zone here. And so they swooped in, they took the property, they built as much as they could. And it wasn't conducive to the area anymore, but it's what they got. So, but with that, is there anything else from the commission?
As if that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're working 90 now, a week? No. Future meetings, Wednesday, June 24th, 2020, City Council meeting. The July 2nd Planning Commission meeting will be canceled. Wednesday, July 8th, 2020 will be another City Council meeting. And then I'll look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, guys.
If anybody finds an earring, it's mine.